Give them credit. I think they've done marvellously well tonight in the difficult conditions, and the game yet is still wide open, and we're going into extra time. And who would forecast the outcome of this contest? Not you or I, would we?
Well, it's certainly going to be a tough 30 minutes or so of extra time, Harold. It's been hard for the players out there tonight already, because we've commented upon it, I suppose, to boredom for people listening at home, but I can underline it again that really it isn't the best of conditions for footballers, that difficult swirling wind around Ayresome Park tonight, and the players have got to combat with 30 minutes of extra time as well. Yes,
looking at the players there as they're being tended to by the various trainers and what have you, there's one or two Middlesbrough players look a little bit dejected by the situation. I think they felt that they had the game well under control and they're going along nicely until the goal came and, you know, set them back on the heels. But give them credit, they've battled away for the whole of the 90 minutes. They've certainly made Aston Villa know they've got a game on their hands, and at one time it looked as though Middlesbrough were going to pull it off. Still, they've got another half hour to do it in now, 15 minutes each way, and let's think.
I was just going to say, Harold, a thought went through my mind. You were telling me before the game you've attended Wembley on something like 74 occasions. On one of those occasions there was a famous extra time in the World Cup final against West Germany. Sir Alf Ramsey spoke some marvellous words to lift the morale of the team. What did he say, and could that be repeated out there on the pitch?
Well, I think it could. All he said to them was, look, you've played well for 90 minutes and you've had the game snatched away from you. Surely you can go out there and get a couple of goals to give us victory, which he did. And as you say, it's marvellous for Middlesbrough to have Wembley in their sides, and I feel confident that they might still do it. I hope they do, because it'll be a marvellous thing for the town, be marvellous for the club, be marvellous for the players, and they've deserved it the way they've played in these cup ties. And really, they've battled away tonight. And as I say, it's in the lap of the gods at the moment, but we're keeping our fingers crossed for Boro.
Fingers firmly crossed for Middlesbrough. The players are now being asked by referee David Allison to make their way out to prepare themselves for 30 minutes of extra time. The full-time score at Ayresome Park was Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Stuart Gray with a goal on 77 minutes that has denied the majority of the crowd with 20,806 their moment of glory, their joy. But joy will still continue long into the night on Teesside if Middlesbrough were to get a goal into extra time, or indeed win the most dramatic of penalty kick competitions that would ever have taken place on Ayresome Park here. As it is, Aston Villa to begin the first period of extra time. They're to kick from right to left as we look, from the Holgate end towards the east end of the ground. Middlesbrough to attack in the opposite direction towards the favoured Holgate end of the ground. 15 minutes we have on the watch of the first period of extra time. Gordon Cox to take it up for us.
Thank you, Alistair. Aston Villa immediately going straight into defence. As one supporter just came up to me while you were talking, Harold Shepherdson, saying the goal quite simply was a disgrace. Stephen Pearce wasn't pushed, he was mugged. It was impossible for us to tell from here, but they're further down in the stand, the supporters, and they reckon that Stephen Pearce was fouled. Purely academic, as Aston Villa press forward on the edge of Middlesbrough's penalty area now. Kevin Gage on the near side of play, releasing the goal scorer Stuart Gray. Inside to Gordon Cowans. Cowans with Mountfield up supporting. Tries to release David Platt, but Tony Mowbray resolute in defence, but Gray once ball up ball high inside the area. David Platt's there. Oh no, he isn't. Owen McGee gets it. The linesman though with flag erect. Well spotted on the near side of play by the referee. He spotted it well, saw it first time. Middlesbrough will have an indirect free kick inside their own penalty area. We are 1 minute into extra time here at Ayresome Park. In case you've just tuned in, first of all, where on earth have you been? You missed all the action. Full-time score in 90 minutes was Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Stuart Gray with that goal on 77 minutes. No further scoring so far. 1 minute into extra time. Throwing to Aston Villa 10 yards inside their own half. It's Paul McGrath inside towards goal-scoring substitute Stuart Gray. Square across Middlesbrough's back four to Tony Daly. Daly taking on Middlesbrough's defence. Tony Mowbray stands resolute though. Clears the ball up to the halfway line. Alan Kernahan releases Bernie Slavin. Slavin has nowhere to go. He's forced to backtrack and release Mark Proctor inside centre circle. On the overlap is Peter Davenport. Davenport starved of possession from the time he's been on. Now has a chance to show exactly what he can do. Takes on Chris Price down towards the level with the edge of Aston Villa's penalty area. Wings in a good looking cross off the legs of Derek Mountfield. Now it goes for a corner. 2 minutes into extra time. Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Middlesbrough have a corner. Chris silence for the bugler, I think, is the instruction on this occasion. The bugler obliges, the crowd oblige. Mark Proctor steps back onto the cinder track. swings it in, right footed, up go the heads. The head of Paul McGrath that gets there first. Gary Parkinson beats Tony Daly to the ball and then puts in a suicide ball for Nicky Mohan. Excellent defence though as Tony Daly recovered, he trying to get through, and Mohan recovered his lines and Middlesbrough pressed forward. The edge of Aston Villa's penalty area. Peter Davenport, options limited, puts the ball in, looking for Simon Coleman. Coleman back to Owen McGee. McGee's shot charged down. Appeared to be handball there from Stuart Gray, but the referee a lot closer than anybody in the ground, right on top of the situation, said it wasn't. Villa clear the lines at the expense of a throw-in, near side of play. Gary Parkinson exactly on the halfway line takes a throw for Middlesbrough. Halfway inside Villa's half. Alan Kernahan shields the ball, tries to get past Gordon Cowans, can't. Ian Olney's called into to try and get Villa moving, but he can't. He puts the ball out of play. Throw into Middlesbrough, near side of play. Gary Parkinson takes it halfway inside Aston Villa's half. 3 minutes into extra time we are. Parkinson takes it long down the line, looking for Alan Kernahan. Wings in a good looking cross. Is anybody up there? Gordon Cowans misses his kick on the edge of the area. Is he going to be picked up by Mark Proctor? No, Cowans recovers his lines, kicks it high. That's going to bounce well for Tony Daly, but reading it well was Nicky Mohan. Lofted ball looking for Peter Davenport. That's a superb ball that piked out Peter Davenport inside to Paul Kerr. Paul Kerr tries to find out Bernie Slavin. Oh, Alan Kernahan was on the overlap himself, but such was the speed of Middlesbrough's build, you couldn't have expected him to see him there. The lofted ball forward from Mohan again. Doesn't pick out any Middlesbrough player. 4 minutes into extra time. Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Goal kick from Nigel Spink. Headed up in the air, inside centre circle by Tony Mowbray. On halfway line now, reading that one was Kent Nielsen, inside towards Owen McGee. Owen McGee back towards Mark Proctor. Excellent work from Mark Proctor to Gary Parkinson, a yard in from the near side touchline. 10 yards inside his own half. Poor ball from Parkinson though. Picks up inside centre circle for Middlesbrough though by Mark Proctor. Tries to find Peter Davenport. Chris Price for Aston Villa reads it. Releases inside centre circle David Platt. Sprays the ball to the near side of play to Stuart Gray. Stuart Gray approaches the edge of Middlesbrough's penalty area. Puts in at centre. Too near Stephen Pears to be of much use, but a bright opening.
Yes, it is, and both sides are now trying to take out the advantage and get the ball forward quick. Villa at this moment look the stronger side. They've got the use of the wind. They're pushing the ball forward quicker. They're getting men in the middle area, and they're pushed another man up. They're obviously going out to get an early goal.
So far, Middlesbrough denying them, but Aston Villa do have a throw on the halfway line. 4.5 minutes gone in extra time. A throw for Villa always wasted. Gary Parkinson from Middlesbrough clears his lines, picked up by Paul Kerr. Skips past a couple of challenges and then blatant handball from Derek Mountfield, but the referee waves play on and Villa break. Far side of play, headed clear by Nicky Mohan. Picked up inside centre circle by Peter Davenport. Picks up Bernie Slavin. Bernie Slavin has yards of space into which to run. Kent Nielsen stands in front of him, swings in a good looking cross. Kick clear there by Paul McGrath. Halfway inside Aston Villa's half, under the chest of Mark Proctor as Middlesbrough continue to press forward. Proctor goes back towards Bernie Slavin, poor ball from Slavin, but Proctor does well, gets that ball under his control, approaches the edge of Villa's area, sprays the ball to the near side to Gary Parkinson. Parkinson on the overlap sees Paul Kerr down by the corner flag, deep inside Aston Villa's half. Paul Kerr has Kent Nielsen in front of him and Kevin Gage still gets his crossover, but McGrath clears for Aston Villa up to the halfway line. Tony Mowbray is strong in the challenge, but so too will have to be Mark Proctor. But Aston Villa break, they have a man over if they look up. Tony Daly, halfway inside Middlesbrough's half. The overlap was David Platt. Daly's ball wasn't a good one. The ball goes out of play, halfway inside Middlesbrough half, far side of play. Nicky Mohan will take it for Middlesbrough. 6 minutes into extra time. Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. 2-2 on aggregate. This is the first period, of course, of extra time. Villa pressing forward once more. Good ball inside from David Platt, looking for Tony Daly. Tony Mowbray is resolute in the challenge. The ball is loose, but only momentarily inside that penalty area. No panic there for no Villa player who's anywhere near it. Stephen Pears gathers well, bounces the ball a couple of times, and then clears it long, high, up to the halfway line. Kevin Gage misses his kick, but then recovers his lines as Alan Kernahan can't get any advantage out of that, and Gage goes long down the line, releases Daly. Daly and Platt in good 1-2 combination with themselves there, and Daly wants to backtrack though under pressure from Mark Proctor, but still retaining possession is Tony Daly. But a good challenge coming in there from Peter Davenport, but Daly still sticking to his task, that is, until he skips past Peter Davenport and goes no further. The right outstretched boot to Peter Davenport brings him down. Free kick to Aston Villa, 2 yards in for the far side touchline, halfway inside Middlesbrough's half. 7 minutes into extra time. The first period of Gordon Cowan swings in a good looking cross. Up go the heads, it's not clear inside Middlesbrough's area. Offside flag, near side of play. Nobody's seen it. The referee has now. Indirect free kick to Middlesbrough, exactly on the edge of the 6-yard box. 7 minutes, a shade over gone in the first period of extra time. The score at 90 minutes was Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Stuart Gray with that goal on 77 minutes. 2-2 on aggregate, and of course away goals do not count double in this competition. It will, of course, should there be no further scoring tonight, be penalty kicks. The ball is at the edge of the centre circle. Middlesbrough have it. It's Peter Davenport trying to thread the ball through to Alan Kernahan, but Villa once more. An incessant black and white wave moving forward in this first period of extra time. Long ball down the line. Tony Mowbray's got to read that one well, but he doesn't. And Stephen Pears is supposed to come up his goal line to kick that ball out for a goal, for a throw in. And Tony Mowbray totally misjudging that, and Villa pressing. Stuart Gray taking that throw to Gordon Cowans, left with the edge of Middlesbrough's penalty area. Stuart Gray gets that return ball, plays the ball short to Ian Olney. Ian Olney back towards Derek Mountfield. Mountfield square across Middlesbrough's midfield to Kevin Gage. Kevin Gage left-footed tries one that goes well wide of Stephen Pears' left-hand post. 8 minutes gone in the second half, and Middlesbrough have got a mighty battle in midfield.
Yes, they have. Villa really putting them under pressure now. They're pushing men forward all the time. They're winning the fight for the midfield. They've won the midfield battle at the moment, and they're getting more men going into the middle of the half. And at the moment, Middlesbrough are definitely on the defensive and are finding it very difficult to cope with the Villa's pressure.
Middlesbrough's Mark Proctor goes down inside centre circle, and Middlesbrough incapacitated at the moment. They have 10 men. Villa pour forward. Stuart Gray, left-footed cross. David Platt shows good trickery in the edge of the box, but so too this ball back towards keeper Stephen Pears. I think he probably put this ball out of play so Mark Proctor can get some treatment. He is quite obviously injured inside the centre circle. Slices the ball to the near side of play, but Alan Kernahan keeps it in, and eventually tries to release Bernie Slavin, but Kent Nielsen reads it well for Villa. A long ball over the top of Middlesbrough's defence. Reading that one was David Platt. He's being forced wide, is Platt, but cuts inside Parkinson. Tries to release Stuart Gray, but he cannons off the legs of Parkinson on the edge of Middlesbrough's penalty area. And Owen McGee comes away with the ball for Middlesbrough. Lofted ball down the line, but Derek Mountfield's going to get that one for Villa. Headed clearance there, picked up on the halfway line by Gordon Cowans. Long ball down the line, looking for Ian Olney. Didn't find him, but Olney has gone up in an offside position anyway. 10 minutes gone, first period of extra time here at Ayresome Park. The full-time score in 90 minutes was Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Stuart Gray on 77 minutes. No further score to that, no further addition I should say to that scoreline. Just a shade over 10 minutes into the first period of extra time. Middlesbrough 0, Aston Villa 1. Ball inside Aston Villa's penalty area with Alan Kernahan chasing it, but Derek Mountfield getting there first, clears his lines at the expense of a throw-in. 2 yards up from the corner flag, deep inside Aston Villa territory. Alan Kernahan drops it, leaves it for Owen McGee as Gary Parkinson trots forward as well. McGee takes it though and goes short towards Alan Kernahan, back towards Owen McGee again. Left-footed cross, headed clear by Derek Mountfield. And it's going to be a throw into Middlesbrough, level with the edge of Aston Villa's penalty area, near side of play. It's Gary Parkinson who steps back. This is going to be a long one from Parkinson. Takes it, eventually goes short towards Owen McGee. McGee swings over the cross. That's hacked clear though by Stuart Gray. Stuart Gray is the linesman on the far side of play, signalling that when Stuart Gray got that ball off Owen McGee, he actually put it out for a corner kick. Well, the referee didn't spot it, but the linesman did. The linesman stuck to his guns, and Middlesbrough have a corner. 11 minutes into extra time, the first period of it, and Middlesbrough have a corner near side of play. It's Mark Proctor who's going to be taking it in front of the Holgate end of the ground. Proctor steps back a couple of paces, right-footed, sends over a cross, headed goal bound. There's a chance now for Alan Kernahan's shot charge round for a corner. Another corner kick to Middlesbrough, keeping up the pressure. 11.5 minutes gone in the first period of extra time. It's a corner kick to Middlesbrough. Second corner in quick succession as Mark Proctor floats it in. Up go the heads. Tony Mowbray heads it. Overhead kick for Alan Kernahan. The ball's bouncing loose. Bernie Slavin hits it, and he's got it to the back of the net. And Bernie Slavin has scored for Middlesbrough. 12 minutes minutes into the first period of extra time, and Bernie Slavin from the edge of the 6-yard box has buried that ball into the roof of the net. It's Middlesbrough 1, Aston Villa 1, and could that be the goal which takes Middlesbrough to Wembley? Aston Villa immediately press forward. The long clearance from Gordon Cowans goes out of play, far side of play. It's going to be a throw into Middlesbrough. The crowd, as you well imagine, are ecstatic here at Ayresome Park. The 20,000 plus crowd are in raptures. Bernie Slavin has done it again for Middlesbrough. The ball is out of play though, 10 yards inside Middlesbrough's half. The far side of play, it's going to be a throw into Aston Villa. It's Chris Price who's going to be taking it in front of a packed and ecstatic South Terrace. 10 yards inside Middlesbrough's half. He takes it, it's headed out of play by Nicky Mohan. You may just be able to hear me above the din in the North Stand here. The support is absolutely tremendous. Middlesbrough clear their lines, picked up inside centre circle by Paul McGrath. Lovely footwork from McGrath. Long ball forward, picks out David Platt. Platt only finds Parkinson, and a lofted ball back from Gary Parkinson back towards keeper Stephen Pears. And Stephen Pears just takes his time to take the sting out of the game. But my word, you can always rely, Harold, on Bernie in a crisis.
Well, you see Mowbray knocked the ball on. Slavin kept his cool. His marvellous ball control in areas whereby it's very tight. He looked up, he did a 1-2 on the ball and slotted the ball past Spink. A very good goal, an excellent striker's goal, and it's probably the only player in the middle of the team that could have scored it.
14 minutes into the first period of extra time. Middlesbrough 1, Aston Villa 1. Bernie Slavin with that equalising goal coming just a couple of minutes ago, his 24th goal of the season, and scarcely can one have been more important. Aston Villa have the goal kick with a minute left in the first half of extra time. The ball's inside centre circle. Alan Kernahan, chip ball forward, cleared by Kevin Gage. Gage with the ball high in the air, halfway inside Middlesbrough's half, picked up by Ian Olney. Olney skips past a couple of challenges. Owen McGee sticks to his task well, releases Simon Coleman. Coleman up on the overlap finds Alan Kernahan. Back to Gary Parkinson, lofted clearance down the line for Gary Parkinson. That will go out of play, 10 yards inside the Aston Villa half, with 30 seconds away from the end of the first half of extra time. 15 minutes each way, of course, in this competition. Middlesbrough 1, Aston Villa 1. Nigel Spink, right-footed and long, halfway inside Middlesbrough's half. Up go the heads. Tony Mowbray clears it, but it's picked up by Gordon Cowans. Long down towards the corner flag. Tony Daly will race across, but even he can't get that one. Over the goal line it goes. Out of play, shadowed by Simon Coleman. In preparation for taking this goal kick, Stephen Pears kicks a divot inside the 6-yard box. He won't have time to take that goal kick. That is half-time, as it were, in extra time. We have 15 minutes left for play. Bernie Slavin's goal has put Middlesbrough just 15 minutes away from Wembley. Can they this time hold on to their advantage? I can tell you now, listeners in the Radio Cleveland area, this will be, I promise you, the longest 15 minutes of your footballing lives. We stop the watch on 15 minutes. We will start it again shortly, and commentating and hopefully taking Middlesbrough to Wembley, Alistair Brownlee.
Thanks, Gordon. It really is a wave of emotion that is going around Ayresome Park at the moment. You can't tell that the Holgate end is the so-called Kop end of the ground, because the Kop is everywhere. The South Terrace is cheering. The North Stand people are standing and cheering. They're willing their team on. Bernie Slavin with that vital goal, 102 minutes or so of action it was officially timed at. Mark Proctor with the corner, Tony Mowbray the knock-on, and Bernie Slavin does what he does best. 24 now for the season, and never a more vital goal in your life will Bernie Slavin score. But Aston Villa aren't out of this one yet. The ball is on halfway line. Villa moving down the left-hand side. It's a long ball forward. Tony Mowbray clears it. Every clearance, every touch of the ball by a red shirt will be cheered. But now there's a bit of worry as Kent Nielsen launch it forward once more for Chris Price to attempt to move round. The tackle of Nicky Mohan. Mohan slid in. Price jumped over the tackle. The ball went out of play. It's going to be a goal kick at the Holgate end of the ground. Middlesbrough in the second period of extra time are going to attack from right to left as we look. It's from the Holgate end towards the Aston Villa supporters, all 700 of them in the east end of the ground. Come on, Burris, all you can hear. the crowd rather quite rightly drowning out the commentator there almost as Middlesbrough launch it up towards Peter Davenport on halfway line. Davenport round one tackle, can't get round the body of Kevin Gage, who put his body simply in front of Peter Davenport. It's going to be a free kick for Middlesbrough. Davenport has added a dimension to Middlesbrough's game since he's come on as substitute. Stu Ripley was withdrawn from the action due to cramp. He'd ran himself ragged. But Davenport has control with the left-hand side is a vital asset. The free kick is taken by Nicky Mohan, and immediately he ticks himself up because he kicks it straight out of play at the far end of the ground there. So it's going to be a goal kick for Aston Villa. The kick taken by Nigel Spink. Nigel Spink moves to take this clearance now, right-footed and deep, into the Middlesbrough half of the field, but then it's drifted back into the Villa half with a strong wind in Boro's favour in the second period of extra time. Bernie Slavin, tonight's hero, is tackled hard but fair by Kevin Gage. Gage then towards Tony Daly, who's done more than any man to bring Aston Villa back into this game. He comes back short to Gordon Cowans. Cowans, it's a long ball, it's a tired ball, it's a ball that's going out of play, and Aston Villa for the moment are a bit baffled, Harold.
Yes, they are. They've been shattered by Middlesbrough's persistence, who pulled the game really out of the fire. And it's Middleton now that looking the more likely seed. They're full of running, they're fighting and challenging for every ball. And Villa at times look a little bit nonplussed.
Middlesbrough now are moving the ball up towards halfway line, and Bernie Slavin, neat ball back to Mark Proctor. Proctor away to right-hand side, and charging forward is Gary Parkinson deep into Villa territory. Alongside him in support is Paul Kerr. The red shirts stream forward. Kerr tries to go down one tackle too many, but gets the ball back on the edge of the Villa area. Puts in the centre now. Peter Davenport, chance to move into the Villa penalty area. Gets it under control, back to goal, trying to work an angle for a shot. He's trying, he gets inside the D, turns one way then the other. His attempted shot is blocked against the body there of Derek Mountfield. Then precise at the back to goal. Comes in from away on the left-hand side, and only back helping defence. And it comes towards goalkeeper Nigel Spink. Spink clears it, but Gary Parkinson has it. The highest kick of the night. It goes high, comes down and chasing for it, battled for it over on far side of the players. Peter Davenport. Davenport trying to get round the challenge of Paul McGrath, and Davenport wins that vital battle. Centre comes in now, deflects. It's corner for Middlesbrough, right-hand side. And the crowd are now going to try and lift their team on, cheer them on. Looking at the watch, it tells us we're something like 3 minutes into the second period of extra time. The bugler now is trying to lift the team as well. It's a corner for Middlesbrough to be taken by Mark Proctor. Mark Proctor waiting for the dust to settle, as it were, inside penalty area before he's going to swing this one in now. Right-footed, Tony Mowbray, it's in for his head. It goes beyond him. First time shot from Paul Kerr. It's gone in! Paul Kerr's long-range shot goes through a host of players, and Middlesbrough, quite simply, are at Wembley, and Paul Kerr, a former Aston Villa player, has hammered the nail into the Villa coffin. Middlesbrough there. The shot came in from Paul Kerr. Nigel Spink couldn't have seen it. It was buried, Harold.
When the ball came over in the corner, it cleared the defenders. It ran to Paul Kerr without hesitation, hit a ball from an angle right across the face of the goal into the far corner of the net. The goalkeeper can't have seen it.
Prepare yourself now for the longest party, the greatest party in the history of football on Teesside. There are people standing on the fences at the Holgate end. Let's hope that they can behave themselves and enjoy this carnival atmosphere. It was nail-biting time when Stuart Gray scored a goal on 77 minutes that drew the tie level on aggregate. Moving into extra time, the first period, 102 minutes, Bernie Slavin hammered the ball into the roof of the Villa net. And now Paul Kerr has surely hammered the nail into the Villa coffin, because it's Middlesbrough 2, Aston Villa 1 on the night. And Middlesbrough, quite simply, I think, now are at Wembley, and an Aston Villa player over on far side of play, that's Gordon Cowans, dribbles the ball out of place. It's going to be a throw-in for Middlesbrough as the stewards now begin to encircle the pitch and try and maintain some order, but it's good natured on the terrace at the moment. They're trying to get Bruce Rioch to wave towards them, are the fans in the Holgate end, but Bruce Rioch has the whistle, and Ian Olney has the ball on the edge of the area. An attempted shot rebounds against Tony Daly and comes back to Kevin Gage as Aston Villa encamped midway inside the Middlesbrough half. Left-footed centre comes in. Gordon Cowans on the edge of the area neatly brings in Ian Olney. Chip ball goes in, and a clearance from Tony Mowbray by his back heel goes out towards right-hand side, and Paul Kerr long up towards halfway line where Alan Kernaghan's battling for it. Kernaghan loses out, and Aston Villa, they have no other route but to charge forward. Derek Mountfield to Kevin Gage. Gage back to Mountfield once more, 20 yards out from goal. A clever ball away to left-hand side. Centre comes in via Gary Parkinson's. It's going to be a corner for Aston Villa as the red and white banners and red and white scarves are being held aloft in the Holgate end. But they still have to watch this Villa corner. Aston Villa corner going to be taken by Gordon Cowans. Left-footed it comes in now. Up go the heads. It's a near post flick on it. Eludes almost everybody. A shot's cleared off the line. And then dribbling the ball out of danger is Mark Proctor. Proctor a long clearance, allowed cheer. But Peter Davenport, Middlesbrough substitute, coming on tonight wearing the number 12 shirt. Not only has he done good work in the Aston Villa half, he's also cleared a goal-bound shot of his own line. And looking at the watch, it tells us that 9 minutes or so of action left in this game. On the night, it's Middlesbrough 2, Aston Villa 1, on aggregate 4-2 in favour of Middlesbrough. And that date at March the 25th is now yawning open for the Boro if they can defend. Unfortunately, ball goes into the area. Cowans has a shot in. First time take from Pears, second time grab, and the Middlesbrough goalkeeper's not going to be beaten now, surely, Harold?
No, that was a very, very good save, a good move from Villa. They played the ball through, and the ball was pushed through, and as a Villa forward ran into the goal area, Pears covered his goal well. He hit a cracking shot, but Stephen Pears was right in line and made a good save.
Stephen Pears now taking his time. 8 minutes of action left in the second period of extra time at Ayresome Park. It's Middlesbrough 2, Aston Villa 1 on the night. On aggregate 4-2 in favour of the red shirts of Middlesbrough. Now they're having to defend a bit. Midway inside their own half. It's Tony Daly, brings it back to Gordon Cowans. Cowans down right-hand side of Chris Price, wearing number 2, but now playing more and more as a right winger. But his route to goal is blocked there very firmly by Simon Coleman, who's had a magnificent game at the heart of Middlesbrough's defence, and turns it towards his goalkeeper, Stephen Pears. Stephen Pears, right-footed clearance up towards halfway line, and Alan Kernigan, aerial combat between himself and Kent Nielsen. Villa players win that ball as it comes down, though, at the feet of Derek Mountfield. Mountfield right-footed, and midway it drops inside the Middlesbrough half. Gaps are opening up in the Boro defence rather worryingly there. Stuart Gray dived in, but Simon Coleman stopped that move. Then brings in over on far side of play Gary Parkinson. Parkinson's tackled and surely is foul as he attempted to move into Villa half of the field, and then rather a childish throw goes straight in the midriff of Gary Parkinson. He isn't worried about that. He's happy. He thinks his team are on the way to Wembley, and who can deny him with 7 minutes left and a 4-2 aggregate score in favour of Middlesbrough. This is what everybody has dreamed about. It was a nightmare when Stuart Gray scored on 77 minutes. The majority of the crowd of 20,806 went very, very quiet. They're cheering now thanks to goals in extra time by Bernie Slavin and Paul Kerr. Kerr, the second goal hero, swoops out wide majestically to Peter Davenport. Davenport now has to try and beat Chris Price. He's showing him the ball. He eludes one challenge, tries to go down the second from Derek Mountfield, but Mountfield knocks the ball out of play. Throw in for the Boro. Peter Davenport trots over to accept the ball from the ball boy, and Davenport now about to power the edge of the Villa area, takes the throw, aiming for Alan Kernigan, who's ran himself daft in Middlesbrough's cause tonight. Ball comes back there to Peter Davenport. High it goes, swirls in the night air, eventually comes down to Mark Proctor. Proctor, 30 yards out of goal, is forced back. Comes back all the way to centre circle, and Tony Mowbray. Mowbray dribbling the ball back towards goalkeeper Stephen Pears. There is applause, and now there is a scene never before, I think, on any ground in football. If we witness something like this, there is the football anthem of "You'll Never Walk Alone," and the scarves being raised from the Holgate end away the right-hand side, right the way around behind Stephen Pears' goal. Over on far side of the South Terrace, there's people showing their Middlesbrough banners. In the seats as well, the scarves are being waved. Everybody is happy. Middlesbrough surely are on their way to Wembley. Mark Proctor, can this be icing on the cake for Middlesbrough now as they move into the Villa half with 6 minutes left? Paul Kerr sweeps, tries to sweep it rather from right-hand side to left. That's picked up by Chris Price. Price now moving forward in a central position inside centre circle. Long ball attempting to get inside full-back Nicky Mohan, but Stephen Pears read that one to perfection. Came outside the penalty area and knocked it away into the North Terrace seating area. Well, there's one or two bananas bespeckled there with Middlesbrough colours as well. Bananas was the craze of last season, the inflatable devices, you might remember. Some people have kept them and blown them up for the Zenith Data Systems Cup at Ayresome Park tonight, and now waving them as Middlesbrough have to defend the Holgate end penalty area. Tony Daly round one tackle. He's almost shoved to the floor there by Mark Proctor, but Gordon Cowans gets the loose ball. Then Gordon Cowans tries to drive it across the face of the Boro area. It's chipped in once more, and Stephen Pears collects it on the edge of 6-yard box. He gets good and generous applause from the crowd as we're less than 5 minutes now away from the first ever appearance of Middlesbrough in a final at Wembley Stadium. Stephen Pears, right-footed and deep into the Villa territory. Alan Kernigan is chasing this one. Paul McGrath lets the ball go out of play. It's going to be thrown for Aston Villa just up from the edge of their own penalty area. But surely now, Harold, as we move with something like 4 minutes left, it's Middlesbrough for Wembley.
I can't see Middlesbrough letting this slip now. I know it's a a silly thing to do to start making prophecies. So, but the Boro really have this game by the scruff of the neck. They're fighting for every ball. They're bang full of confidence. They're getting the ball, and every time Villa has a player in possession, there's a Middlesbrough player come to tackle him, and Middlesbrough covering up all the while. It's Middlesbrough doing all the running now, and Villa don't know what's hit them.
Aston Villa hit by goals in extra time from Bernie Slaven and Paul Kerr that may well have stamped Middlesbrough's passport on the route to Wembley in the Zenith Data Systems Cup. But time is still being played, and played by Mark Proctor. And Proctor's tackled rather crudely by Tony Daly, who should know better, and the referee David Allison decides, instead of administering the yellow card, just as he probably looks at his watch, and it tells him, as it tells me in front of me here, that there is something like 3 minutes of action left of this game, and quite simply Aston Villa are running out of time, and Middlesbrough running towards the ultimate, a final appearance. Long clearance from Stephen Pears, lands inside the Aston Villa half. Mark Proctor to Owen McGee. McGee, wearing number 14, been involved in the action as early as the 9th minute, when sadly Trevor Putney was taken to hospital, where we gather he still is in Middlesbrough General Hospital. The pain may be great, Trevor Putney, but if you're listening and able to listen to the commentary, there was something surely gladden your heart in round about 3 minutes or so, because you will be part of a cup final team. The first time ever we're able to say that on Teesside. As Middlesbrough Football Club, the door begins to swing open, but Aston Villa is still battling as their manager Graham Taylor demands that they must do until the final whistle. It's now just over on the far side of play, and Aston Villa forward there, he only went down under a challenge from Gary Parkinson, and referee decides it's going to be a free kick for Aston Villa. Kick is taken quickly. Gordon Cowans gets inside the Middlesbrough penalty area, but back helping out there is Mark Proctor, dribbling the ball out of danger. Long clearance goes now down right hand side, put in once more by Kevin Gage. Aston Villa, Kevin Gage chips it there up towards number 14, Stuart Gray, on the edge of the area, tackled by Mark Proctor. Back playing just in front of his back four, his midfield man Mark Proctor brings in Gary Parkinson. A long kick, no danger to the Villa goal, but the Boro fans couldn't care less, because it buys Middlesbrough a little bit more time. Kent Nielsen now trying to dribble out of defence and distribute the ball away to right-hand side, and Chris Price down the right flank as far as Tony Daly, watched by Nicky Mohan, and the ball is hammered out of play, and Middlesbrough, quite simply, what they have, they hold. We're 2 minutes away from Wembley. Throw-in comes in from Chris Price, headed out by Alan Kernigan, back helping out his defence there. Chris Price is going to get a second bite of the cherry. Throw-in comes in now as far as Tony Daly. Daly's being watched and policed very well by Paul Kerr. Kerr to Nicky Mohan, sold Nicky Mohan a little bit there, and Tony Daly now has the ball, crushes it in, headed out by Tony Mowbray. A corner for the Villa, and Mark Proctor there is quite furious for the pass that Paul Kerr laid into the path, I think, there of Nicky Mohan. But Aston Villa have their time to take this corner, because the fans are keeping hold of the football. Referee David Allison shows the Aston Villa players, Chris Price and Gordon Cowans, that he is adding time on as we move into the final minute of the game. Gordon Cowans takes the corner, half cleared by Owen McGee, doesn't really get too much on it, and it drifts over towards far side of play, where Ian Olney checks in once more. Paul McGrath supported the attack, headed away there, then volleyed away by Nicky Mohan back in defence. And now as Aston Villa commit players forward, Middlesbrough could have a break on, but Paul Kerr tries to dribble it out of danger. He still has possession of the ball, but the impetus of the attack is lost. Mark Proctor now. Proctor sprays out wide towards Peter Davenport, just in front of the dugouts. Davenport now checks and moves forward. Lovely ball forward as well as far as Gary Parkinson, but there is Paul McGrath showing international class defending, who calms things down and gives it to Kevin Gage. Kevin Gage now moving forward. Right-footed long ball, that is in no danger whatsoever to Middlesbrough's defence, as Nicky Mohan allows the ball to drift out of play. It's going to be thrown for Middlesbrough as we now move into time, added on by referee David Allison. And the Middlesbrough fans can barely contain their excitement. The referee has already checked at the watch. He hasn't as yet decided this is full time. The throw-in is taken as far as Paul Kerr. Kerr with the chest and the volley forward. Headed on by Derek Mountfield on halfway line. Picked up by Mark Proctor. Proctor tries to win the midfield battle and does. Proctor dribbling for Middlesbrough, and Proctor tries to bring in there Alan Kernigan. Kernigan loses out in the tackle with Paul McGrath. Referee waving play on. It's close to near side of play as Chris Price meets Melia's centre with the head there of Simon Coleman. Coleman gets it clear to Alan Kernigan, but Kernigan's pass is a poor one. It's a pass of the tired man as Stuart Gray now charges forward for Aston Villa as the Boro defence opens up, but Stephen Pears grabs it on the goal line. And referee David Allison checks with the watch once more. Any moment now you're going to hear a big roar, and Middlesbrough at Wembley. The Middlesbrough players can't believe it. They're hugging each other. The red shirts of Middlesbrough are gathering together. Little Owen McGee, I can see down there probably in tears. His contribution has been a vital one. A small young man is Owen McGee, but it's been a man's contribution to his team's cause tonight. People are coming onto the surface at Ayresome Park here, but the majority of the fans are staying behind the fencing. There is one thing they would like to see, that is their team return to take their bows. Let's not forget, amidst all the scenes of triumph and joy here at Ayresome Park, that Aston Villa have made a tremendous game of this. Stuart Gray's goal sank everybody's hearts on 77 minutes, but then back into the game came Middlesbrough, roaring into the game in extra time. Bernie Slavin, the vital goal at the Holgate end, turned it into the roof of the net, and then Paul Kerr's Middlesbrough attacked the East End in the second period of extra time, drove the ball low, drove it hard, drove it through the defenders, and I'll say it again, Harold, drove Middlesbrough to Wembley.
Yeah, what a marvellous night. It's marvellous to see the spectators now who've supported the Boro through these cup ties. They're on the field now, they're clearing the pitch, but it was a great resilient performance by Middlesbrough tonight. They took the bit by the teeth as the game wore on, and they deserved their success without any shadow of doubt. And in the closing stages, they were literally running their opponents ragged. They fought for every ball, they challenged every inch of the space, and there was no way that Aston Villa were going to get back into this game.
Well, now there's a lot of booing in the background, not booing any of the players, but what simply the booing is for is that a number of ridiculous Middlesbrough supporters have moved towards the Aston Villa supporters in the east end of the ground and are taunting them. The majority of the crowd are shouting off, off, because what the Tannoy announcement has said is until these ridiculous people clear themselves from the playing surface, the players can't come back out.
This is a piece of history for Middlesbrough tonight. The pitch at the moment is quarter covered by Middlesbrough supporters, and the Middlesbrough supporters are heeding the advice of their fellow colleagues in the terraces. They are going to get off the pitch. They will eventually get back behind, we hope, those fences, and until they do, as a man, Middlesbrough will not come out and take a thoroughly deserved lap of honour. My word, what a night this has been for Middlesbrough Football Club. Bernie Slavin putting Middlesbrough right back into it. Paul Kerr, very old boy. You say the football's full of ironies. I'm quite sure he will not be welcome back at his old club anymore.
He's most certainly welcome on Teesside, though, and we can say that what threatened to be a nasty incident for a moment has now been diffused, that the stewards are shepherding the people off the field because the announcement has been made over the tannoy. And that was a good announcement to make as well, because it left everybody in no doubt whatsoever that until the people clear themselves from the playing surface out there, that there is going to be no bows, there is going to be no cheering. But I'll tell you something, that once they manage to get the playing surface at Ayresome Park clear, Harold, there's going to be a tremendous draw, and a deserved draw for the players that have taken Middlesbrough Football Club for the first time in their history to Wembley.
Yes, absolutely superb. They fought as we said, they fought. They had one or two once in the game where the game looked as though it might be going away. They battled every inch of the turf, and when you look at the players, every one of the players was a hero tonight. They all played their part. You can't really single out anybody more than anybody else, but I must mention some of the good work that Stephen Pears did when he made two vital saves earlier on in the game, and what a colossus of a player Tony Mowbray is.
Harold, in your long years in football, you've at last got your dream.
Well, yes, it's nice. It's nice to see Middlesbrough at Wembley. I was at Wembley on many occasions with England, but never with Middlesbrough. I've always felt that someday it would happen, and today it has.
Well, it is a night of delight for both the young and the old. There's a lot of elderly people who've dreamed many a time and been beaten by cruel irony and seen their team knocked out of FA Cup competitions and Littlewoods Cup competitions. There's some younger fans here standing up as well in the North Stand who are very delighted, just beginning their football supporting lives, but seeing their team get to Wembley. It may well be the Zenith Data Systems Cup, but as far as the fans on Teesside are concerned, it may well be the World Cup. Their dreams have been answered. They're beginning to shout now and urge that the playing surface has been cleared, and can they please have their players back out. Middlesbrough fans in the Holgate end are going a little bit quiet at the moment and preparing their voices, which have been in action for 90 minutes plus the 30 minutes of extra time to cheer their team on. And now I think the stewards over on the far side are just waiting to shepherd across one or two of the people who'd indulge a little bit over celebration, as it were, by coming onto the pitch. And as soon as these people are put back behind the fencing, then the players will come out, and the Aston Villa supporters have not stayed to watch this. They've moved away. The East End seats are empty. The Clive Road corner is empty. There's three sides of the ground that is full. And now there's the marvellous sight. Away to the right-hand side, the Holgate end. Well, they say that You'll Never Walk Alone began on Anfield, began by a group of fans singing a song from Jerry and the Pacemakers, which was accepted as their anthem. And the anthem is now the anthem of football. and the fans and Middlesbrough Football Club have adopted it as well, and they're waving red and white scarves high into the air. They're cheering. They can't believe it. They'll wake up in the middle of the night and say, did I dream all of this? And the answer is no. Middlesbrough at Wembley, and the fans are saying it all. Bring on the Boro. And looking down there, the bugler has now taken his position. The bugler just by the touchline, and no doubt he will signify the charge, and he will signal the charge and ask the players to come out. The bugler of the Green Howards has now raised the bugle to his lips. The microphone has been produced just by him. The bugler who first blew that note on the opening day of 1990, I don't suppose realised when he began 1990 that he would blow that bugle on a night in February and indicate that Middlesbrough Football Club are on their way to Wembley, in the Zenith Data Systems Cup. And now we prepare for the bugler, and the photographers are down there taking their pictures for tomorrow's papers as well. They're congregating around the tunnel, awaiting the arrival of the team. And the fans over on the far side in the South Terrace will no doubt get the first view of the Middlesbrough players who've created a little piece of history, begin to move back out of the dressing room and begin to take their bows. And the bugler once more has raised that to his lips. He's adding to the sense of drama in the occasion here as we await the arrival of the team. Here come the Boro! Well, it wasn't so much the charge, more a peep. But now comes the real roar as Tony Mowbray leads the team out. Down there is Nicky Mohan. Nicky Mohan wearing the number 3 shirt, who's done tremendously well. And the Middlesbrough players are waving to the crowd in the North Terrace. And this is going to be a lap of honour, a lap of triumph. There isn't a cup there, but there's a dream that has turned into reality. And the reality is Middlesbrough at Wembley. And Stuart Ripley, who suffered from cramp, he ran himself daft in Middlesbrough's cause, has still found a willingness in his legs to come out and wave to the fans. So too is Stephen Pears. The tannoy announcement again is requesting that everybody stays off the pitch and allows those red shirts the night of celebration and the type of celebration that they so richly deserve. Alan Kernigan, always known for his dramatic moments and little jigs, is going to the Holgate end and waving. And the rest of the Middlesbrough players, little Owen McGee, who's began his football career in the first team this year and has something to treasure and something to remember, has now got a bobble hat thrown out and he's precisely put on the top of his head and his socks are rolled down. He can barely carry on with this lap of honour, but he is going to as well. Nobody's going to deny the Middlesbrough players quite rightly their moments of triumph. They're now moving away towards the Holgate end goal, where all the passion and all the joy is now being celebrated, and there's scarves being thrown on, and Tony Mowbray is now waving a scarf towards the fans there. Peter Davenport's accepting a scarf. They're leaving Stephen Pears behind. He's collecting, I don't know whether he's going into trade of Middlesbrough souvenirs down there, but there's plenty of things that are being thrown at Stephen Pears. Scarves, banners, etc. And there's one man missing. There's the chant that is going up now. We want Bruce. We want Bruce. I wonder whether we're going to see him. But over on the far side in front of the South Terrace, the chicken runners they call it, are now beginning to hoist the Middlesbrough players high. It's almost like a piggyback ride in front of the South Terrace. There's Simon Coleman, who celebrated Wembley's success with Mansfield in the Freight Rover Trophy, has never witnessed success celebrated in such a fashion as this. And he's been now taken way ahead of the rest of the team. And the fans are still, rather sadly, some of them coming on. And it is spoiling a bit of the celebration because they should stay behind the fences they're being asked to do and allow the players to take the bows in front of the vast majority of the crowd who are remaining well behaved. And again, I underline it, they can't quite believe what they're seeing, because when this game kicked off tonight, their side had a 2-1 advantage. When it ended with the drama of extra time, their side had an aggregate of 4-2 winning margin. They had to go through the agonies of Aston Villa scoring, but they've come through the agony towards the ecstasy. And now the Middlesbrough players are going to move from the South Terrace over on the far side towards this near side, the North Stand area. And Bernie Slavin, that is a lovely touch. Bernie Slavin goes over towards the enclosure which is reserved for those people rather sadly suffering from disabilities in wheelchairs. And Bernie Slavin bends down. And the person in the wheelchair there is having the night of his or her life, because they are hugging Bernie Slavin, the man whose goal in the first period of extra time took Middlesbrough towards the door to Wembley. And now the rest of the Middlesbrough players have gone to that area and move along the front of the North Stand, in front of the director's box, to accept the applause. Down there is Gary Parkinson, and he almost gets the shirt ripped off his back there by the fans. They're patting him, they're patting Paul Kerr as well. And the team completing the lap of honour. The team are completing their night of triumph. And they come back down to the tunnel where it all began. and there's going to be 1 or 2 photographs taken. The fans now following the players around. The vast majority of the fans complete that lap of honour right in front of the dugout. Simon Coleman is there trying to wave up at 1 or 2 friends and relatives, and now in front of us Bernie Slavin, who is the darling of the fans. He came down from Scotland and he said it all this week. Scotland didn't give me a chance at club level. They didn't give me a chance at international level. I'm proud to be accepted as part of Middlesbrough, and he is now part of Middlesbrough's folklore history. He scored a goal that began all of the celebrations, and Paul Kerr rounds it off. And Middlesbrough at Wembley, and the fans can now carry on celebrating. They will not desert the terraces just yet. They still want the team to stay out there. They still want the team to stay for as long as they're willing to do. Peter Davenport can't get to the dressing room because he's been carried along amongst a wave of fans who are picking Peter Davenport up and down, throwing him up and down and singing "Wembley, Wembley, here we come." I hope Peter Davenport regains his feet in time for Saturday's league match at Bournemouth, but that is at the back of everybody's minds. Tonight it is all about the Zenith Data Systems Cup, a cup which began in front of a crowd less than this against Port Vale on a November night, and now culminates in the most marvellous of all things, and that is Middlesbrough Football Club, after a wait of 114 years, are at Wembley, and the fans now beginning to move away towards the exits. They're quite happy. The team has done a lap of honour. It's time now possibly to allow our eyes to dry a little bit, because there's been 1 or 2 tears there, tears of triumph possibly from the fans. They move in front of us here towards the exits. They're moving on their way home, but I'll tell you something, the party is going to go on long into the night. It's going to be a marvellous party wherever you might be watching football on Teesside. Even if you couldn't be at Ayresome Park tonight, if you've been forced to listen, we hope you've enjoyed the commentary.